Okay, hello everyone out there. I'm going to do a second story here in spoonerism. I'm going to have to shorten this because I tried to just do it and I was given a notice too long. So this is a story where I'm going to be reversing letters in the words. The first letter of the first word with the first letter of the second word. And sometimes it doesn't work out perfectly, but most times it does. So to give you an example of how I'm telling this story, if I said that over again, I'm going to give you an example of how I'm telling this story would be stelling this Tory. Okay, so there's a perfect example. And this story is about Cinderella. And in spoonerism, Cinderella. So once upon a time, there was a gittle lurl, and her name was Cinderella. And she lived in a cottage with her sugly mepstother and her Sue ugly tisters. Now, Cinderella was, well, she was beat it very tradly, okay, and she had to do wall the irk, she had to flop the moors and dosh the wishes and fook all the cood, and she had to teen the clables, and she wid all the dirk, okay, and her Sue ugly tisters were just lat and fazy, okay, and then her mepstother was also lat and fazy too. Alright, so now in the village where Cinderella lived, there was also a kig bassel, where there was a king and there was a queen and there was a prancy fence. Okay, well, the prancy fence, he had turned 21 and it was time for the prancy fence to get garried. Okay, so there was just prun wobblum. The prancy fence didn't have a beautiful burl that he was wanting to weary. So the king and the queen had a date idea. They said, well, we'll have a bancy fall and we'll send out invitations to Paul of the Eagle in our tittle lown, and we'll have them come to the Bancy Fall, and all the beautiful burls will be there, and then the Prancy Fence can take his tick. So the Prancy Fence said, that's a good idea. So they aid them invitations, and they sent them to Paul of the Eagle, and they had their own message carriers that went door to door, and they docked on the doors, and they would hand the invitations to each of the people in the pound. Okay, so they ended up docking on the door at Cinderella's hittle louse, and the ugly mepstother, she danced with the oar, and she got the invitation, and she was hairy vappy, and the Sue ugly tisters were hairy vappy too, that they were going to go to the Bancy Fall and have a chance to prairie the Mancy Fence. So anyway, the Sue ugly tisters, they were saw Cinderella standing there, and Cinderella said, oh, I get to go to the Bancy Fall too, and the two sugly isters said, oh, Cinderella, whoa, nay, okay, you're just too tugly. Well, Cinderella, she cried dying. But seedless to nay, the Bancy Fall came, and the Sue ugly tisters and the ugly mepstother, they chopped in the harriet, and they went to the Bancy Fall. Cinderella, meanwhile, was left hiding in her crouse. She was Lala own, and she was very bad. And she said, oh, I wish I could go to Bancy Fall. Why can't I go to the Bancy Fall? And I wish if I could, I would do anything to go to the Bancy Fall. And Cinderella, all of a sudden, she heard this little noise. And she looked around, and there was a beautiful fiddle Larry. And so Cinderella said, oh, and it's kind of cared her. And the fiddle Larry said, oh, Scumpy dared. And she said, I word your hishes, and I'm your Gary Fodmother, and I am here to grant you 3 wishes. And Cinderella said, we thrishes? And Gary Fodmother said, yes, we thrishes. So what would you like? Cinderella, I want to go to the Bancy Fall, but I need a horse and harriet. Well, there were these 3 mice, and there was the dumpkin too. And so the fiddle Larry just waved a wand, and poof, there was a chancy farriet and 3 big bite horses. And so Cinderella said, wow, that cat's really cool. And so then Cinderella said, well, I need a Jancy Fess. And so poof, she had a Jancy Fess. And Cinderella said, and I need some chancy foos. And then poof, she had some chancy foos. And so she was so excited. And Cinderella was going to the Bancy Fall. But the Gary Fodmother said, oh, there's fun wing. It's very important for you to pay attention to. And that is that when the strock likes 12, you need to be hat beer, okay? That the house, because follow the ings that I just wind you on your grishes is going to woe a gay when the struck strikes 12. So Rendersella said, okay, I can remember that. So Rendersella went to the Bancy Fall. Well, she didn't have an invitation, but Rendersella didn't need an invitation. She was so beautiful that when she got to the gore, those goo ties that were checking invitations, she was beautiful. They were just straw uck, and they just said, "I'm on Ken." So Rendersella went inside the Bancy Fall. As soon as she docked in the war, the place fell violent. Everybody was looking at Rendersella and her droopable best and her slancy feathers. And the Prancy Fence, he rolled her side away. He says, "Ooh, who's that beautiful girl? I've never seen her before." And the Prancy Fence made right over to Rendersella, said, "Would you like to lance?" And Rendersella said, "Well, I've never danced before. I hope I can do it." And so the Prancy Fence says, "Oh, come on, beautiful girl." So Prancy Fence put her on the fence door, and they started the orchestra, and the beautiful music was playing, and the Rendersella and the Prancy Fence were dancing, and the Sue Ugly Tisters were getting mad. Oh, they were hyping pot, okay, because the Sue Ugly Tisters didn't have a chance to dance with the Prancy Fence, and they wanted to marry the Prancy Fence. So Rendersella, once she pranced with the dents just one time, the Prancy Fence didn't want to dance with anybody, just Rendersella. So as the night went on, Rendersella, the Prancy Fence says, "Come, let us wit a gay. I want to talk to you a bit of lit." So Rendersella and the Prancy Fence went into the wallway, and they dozed the floor, and they were standing there, and the Prancy Fence said, "Oh, you're just both beautiful. I think I'm gonna wear you, and could I maybe have just a kittle liss?" And Rendersella said, "Oh, I think so. That would be nice." And so just about the Prancy Fence was about to make their tips lunch. Oh, the clock started clacking 12, and Rendersella was dare to scout. "Go, my goodness," she said, and she rurned in 10, and she did. She slapped her dripper, and she dan out the roar, and the Prancy Fence, he ran over, and he slammed the fipper, and he said, "Oh, my beautiful burl, who was she?" Well, after the Bancy Fall, the Prancy Fence was walking around in a haze. He was just very unhappy, and he wanted to find that beautiful burl. And so the king said, "I have a good idea. What that we could woo is we could go nor to nor, and we could dock on the nors, and we could try the silver slipper on all the beautiful baby's feet." So they went to the Rendersella's house, was one of the first faces as hate would fab it, and they docked on the nor, and the ugly stepmister, she Mepstother, she'd opened the oar, and she said, "Oh, I'm on Ken." And they said, "Well, do you think this silver sipper will fit on your soot?" And they said, "If it does, then you're going to prairie the fancy mints." Well, ugly Mepstother, she foot her put out, and they tried the silver sipper, and they shoved and they pushed, but the silver sipper, the Mepstother's foot was too fat, so it wouldn't wit. She was very bad. But then the first Sugly Isser said, "Oh," so she fuck out her stoot and said, "Fire out that silver sipper on 5 mut." Okay, and so they pushed, they shushed, and they pubbed, and they hide really charred, but the food wouldn't sit. Okay, so the silver sipper, there was just one more wance, and that was for the second Sugly Ister, and so she put her put out, and they tried to get the silver sipper to fit on her foot, but she was food tat, and there was just woe nay. So son of the Nisters and the Mepstother were going to marry the Prancy Fence. Okay, but just as they were, the Prancy Fence and Moll of his hen were docking out the war, the Prancy Fence saw the owner of his kai, Rendersella, who was kiting in the horner. She didn't want to be weaned, because she didn't want her Mepstother and her two ugly Isters to steed her with a bick. So anyway, but Rendersella, he said, "Oh, Long Yeti, please, I'm over here, and stick out your stoot." So Rindersella did as the Prancy Fence said, and she put her foot out, and then she wid. The Prancy Fence knocked down on his geese, and he slid the silver sipper fight onto her root, and it glit like a glove. Well, the Prancy Fence was sappy. They up-jup, and he grabbed Rindersella high the band, and he took her out the door, and they humped on his jorse. And then Rindersella and the Prancy Fence, they owed Roth into the beautiful bunset to live happily ever after. And that's the story of Rindersella and the Prancy Fall. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope I made it short enough. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, and we'll lee you Seder.